So we've seen a spate of robberies in New York City that's been attributed to a Venezuelan gang, and a lot of them have come over within this surge of migrants from Venezuela into the United States.
So since the asylum crisis started, over 200,000 people alone have come through New York City, but they haven't been alone. And a number of gang members have entered sanctuary cities like New York, masquerading as legitimate asylum seekers. But their goals are not legitimate, and that's a big problem, not just for sanctuary cities, but also for any city or state touching one.
A notorious Venezuelan gang has quickly expanded its criminal operations into the United States, raising alarms among U.S. law enforcement officials.
Homeland Security officials tell NBC News they have more than 100 criminal investigations nationwide into TDA, calling TDA the next MS-13.
And you know, police tell us that the migrant crisis has really made this problem so much worse. Here along busy Roosevelt Avenue, not only is there increased gang activity, but also migrant women from other countries desperate to find a job.
They're more organized, they're more structured, and they're involved in so many different crimes. You name the crime, they're going to be involved in it.
It is an infestation. It's taking hold, not just in New York, it's up in Michigan. It's spreading. If people don't wake up and see it for what it is, we're going to be in a lot of trouble in this country.
This is supposed to be a restaurant, and if you look at it, it's listed as a foot massage place.
The bust happening directly across the street from multiple schools, and Chief of Detectives Joseph Kenny says the influx of migrants is fueling the problem.
And with that, you see some gang activity.
Not only are they citywide, but they are operating inside the city's migrant shelters, like this one behind me.
After crossing the border, dangerous gang members are being found not just in New York, but also in neighboring New Jersey. But what nobody's talking about is that both New York and New Jersey, even though they're sanctuary states, the growing presence of gangs in either state couldn't be happening without what's going on right here in New York City, where critics say our generous right-to-shelter laws take things one step further than sanctuary status and have made us an unwilling participant in the growth of gang-related crime throughout the region. Because it's one thing to be a sanctuary city with laws that harbor federal fugitives and protect them from justice, but it's quite another to offer free housing, food, and medical care to people who say they're here for the American dream, but aren't. And it's another thing to not deny somebody access to such generosity after they're caught committing a crime, which critics say is a big problem, not just for New York City, which is unknowingly aiding a small number of people who are secretly gang members, but also for every city and town near New York, because the way crime works is once you've got a critical mass of bad guys, their evil empire will spread. A big problem in progressive areas of America with soft on crime laws that don't send people to jail for robbery or assault and prosecute criminals by protecting them, oftentimes dismissing or downgrading serious offenses like weapons charges, to the point where people who used to be in jail in other parts of the world do those same things here and just get a slap on the wrist. Which brings us to the real reason law-abiding areas of the country that border sanctuary cities are now in danger. Those sanctuary policies are no longer some cute way to rebel against seemingly unjust border security measures. Instead, they make cities like New York, Denver, and Chicago a danger to the rest of the nation. And as you're about to see, these gangs are turning the neighbors of sanctuary cities like New York into crime-ridden no-go zones, all because of what we allow to happen right here. So here we are at the Port Authority bus terminal, and every week in New York, between 600 to 1,000 asylum seekers still arrive looking for a place to stay. Now, proponents of New York's right-to-shelter policies that mandate housing for families, children, and single adults are right that these policies do keep people from living on the street. But critics say these policies also allow a small number of gang members to sneak in along with legitimate asylum seekers, establish themselves, and then spread out committing crime.
So tell me, Robert, who is this group, Tren de Aragua? What kind of people are they?
They originated out of a prison, Tocoron prison in the state of Aragua in the country of Venezuela. And basically, the government official there basically told the gang leaders that you guys take over the prison. So there were no more prison guards. The Tren de Aragua gang members were actually running the prison, and then they're released from prison.
So these are like the last people that you would want getting into a place that's trying to help out legitimate folks. Some of these individuals used to be in prison. And now you've got members of the criminal underworld using New York City's generosity against it and against other cities and towns and states like New Jersey that touch New York City. And recently, gang members who've committed crimes in and around the New York area have been arrested, and some have even given residential addresses to authorities as shelter locations. And we're seeing this happen at sanctuary cities all across the country, not just in New York. Take, for example, Aurora, Colorado. It's not a sanctuary city, but its next one, Denver, Colorado, and criminal activity that was taking place there has now spilled out into Aurora, just like it's now spilling from New York City into New Jersey. And what's fascinating is this is all happening under the umbrella of a system that is supposed to help asylum seekers get on their feet. Yet how can the system accomplish its goal of helping the vulnerable if it's actually being co-opted by dangerous criminals who shouldn't be there in the first place? Obviously, that's not going to be possible, and this reveals a big problem with sanctuary cities, as they are now a scourge on their entire region because they have laws and policies that conflict with the laws of the rest of the country. Laws and policies which critics say don't protect the vulnerable from crooks, but instead protect those crooks from justice and, in some cases, deportation. And look at this map right here. This is the route that apparently these gang members are using to come into the country. They're doing it along with legitimate asylum seekers, just doing their best to blend in, where they then make their way to sanctuary cities like New York, Chicago, Denver. And what then happens is as soon as they get to these areas, they immediately start finding opportunities and places where they can commit crime. Sometimes those opportunities might not be in the city itself. Sometimes they might be just outside.
As a matter of fact, I think we're already in trouble, to be honest with you. We're already in trouble because they've been here for a while. They're more organized, they're more structured, and they're involved in so many different crimes. You name the crime, they're going to be involved in it. You know, I'm concerned.
If there's a crime going on, this gang is going to be involved in it. That's a crazy statement. That means they really have no boundaries. And as a transnational criminal organization, these guys are up to things our country's just not prepared for. And with a critical mass of these gang members having found their way to New York, there's a whole lot they can do. The first thing they can do is grow their numbers, because here at the bus terminal, you can get cheap transportation in and out of the city whenever you want. And every week there are new potential recruits coming into the city who will soon be disenfranchised by its shelter system. And sadly, our shelter system, which is supposed to be helping people who move into it get on their feet and get plugged into our economy, it's failing in that mission. First of all, it evicts people after just 30 days, which isn't enough time for some people who've just come here to get established and get a job, often leading to those folks pitching tents and just camping out in the parks and streets nearby where those shelters are located. And although New York City's ability to house the entire world in shelters for an unlimited period of time is probably non-existent, this system of failure gives gangs a visual example that they can point to and say, see, look, this is the poverty that you'll experience if you don't join up with us. And if that doesn't work, apparently these gangs are also resorting to intimidation tactics, telling asylum seekers that if they don't join up with them, they will be branded as enemies of the gang. And who wants that, especially in a city that's invited you into its shelters, saying that they'll take care of you and then evicts you in just 30 days? A lot of these people feel like they're on their own, and they are. And before we get into the types of crimes that are now being committed in areas near New York City, it's important to understand